research of this kind, so it wasn't done before in specific countries or in the region itself. And I think it's important for all regions and for all countries, not only for Western Balkans, because it's also a question of accountability. We need to be accountable toward the way that we do our work, and monitoring and external evaluation contribute to that. But also all the countries in the Western Balkans have ratified the Istanbul Convention, which means that they are obliged to set up perpetrator programs, but also to set them up to the certain quality and standards of the Istanbul Convention. So this was a good way to actually see how programs reach or don't reach certain aspects of quality standards of the work. Some of the things that were surprising are how certain aspects are similar in the region. So, for example, if you look at the legal framework of all the countries in the Western Balkans, it's quite similar. And most of the countries, for example, have perpetrator programs placed in civil legislation. So as part of the protective measures that are imposed toward perpetrators, and that's not such a frequent way of handling perpetrator programs in other parts of Europe. And you could also see that certain documents are similar, like rule books that governments have adopted and similar. But it was also surprising to see that in all countries, government did intervene and did make some steps, but it was not enough. And there was a clear lack of involvement of the government in setting up, but also ensuring the quality of perpetrator programs across the region. Also, the civil society sector wasn't used to its full capacity, which is a pity because there's a lot of capacity there. So, for instance, in Montenegro, they were not recognized as potential service providers, also in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So programs were mainly placed in statutory agencies, and there was no partnering with civil society sector as it could be. And also in the whole region, there are no specialized programs for prison and probation sectors. There were some pilot actions that continued in Serbia, and that's really a good thing, and some initiatives that came from the NGO, but there were no specialized programs applied countrywide in prison and probation setting in the region, and also there were no programs for sexual offenders. The report provides really extensive lists of recommendations, both on the regional and the country level. But to keep this short, if I would have to choose just one or two for the region, when we look at the whole region, I think that one of the most important things would be to understand perpetrator programs as specialized services, not as something that can be developed through low and short-term investments in a training, establishing a service as additional work of already employed professionals in some statutory agencies. And we see that across region. I think that one of the key things is actually to think about perpetrator programs as specialized services with dedicated financial, human resources to be able to provide the quality work, and also to think about not only having a perpetrator program, but ensuring that it's a quality and safe perpetrator program. So to have standards developed across the region. We have some standards in North Macedonia that are adopted. We have some draft of standards developed by NGOs in Serbia and Albania, but that's still not as it should be, and it's not regionally applied.